Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I want to talk to you about the season finale of Star Wars Ahsoka. It was called The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord. So as the finale began, Thrawn sent 2 TIE fighters after Ahsoka as he prepared to jump home. Elsbeth got rewarded for her role in giving the sisters access to another galaxy by the 3 sisters that give her not only what seemed to be new powers, but also a magic-enhanced sword called the Blade of Talzin. Ahsoka's ship, now carrying Ezra, escorts the Nadi to their new camp, as Ezra builds a new lightsaber with Huyang's help, which I'm not sure how he did, because nobody mentions where he got a kyber crystal from, but I don't know, maybe Huyang just had one on the ship because he had other lightsaber parts. Anyway, it turns out that Ahsoka walked away from Sabine, according to Huyang, because she thought that if Sabine realized her potential as a Jedi, she could be dangerous. Speaking of Ahsoka and Sabine, they talk about Sabine's betrayal, and Ahsoka tells her she's not angry because she knows what it's like to have to make a tough choice and to have everyone but one person decline to stand by you when you make one that seems like the wrong one. And she promises Sabine that that's why no matter what happens, she'll always stand by her. At that point, the 2 TIE fighters attack Ahsoka's ship and damage it such that it's about to go down, which is only prevented by Ahsoka and Ezra holding it up with the Force long enough for Sabine to rig it so that she can give it one quick engine burst straight ahead and slightly up, such that it rams and takes out the 2 TIE fighters before crashing. When told that the TIE fighters reported a successful hit on her ship before contact with them was lost, Thrawn decides to send in a ground assault as Huyang tries to repair the ship, and Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra ride off towards Thrawn's ship on a pair of howlers, intent on a frontal assault, and soon find themselves dodging vertically dropped laser blasts from the destroyer. Using the Force, the 3 of them manage to open the gate at the base of the structure that the Eye of Sion is docked at, and enter it, at which point they're engaged by stormtroopers firing on them, and they quickly make short work of them. The Night Sisters, however, get their magic on and resurrect said troopers repeatedly, causing our heroes to have to continuously fight them until they're able to lock themselves behind a blast door and continue into the structure towards the Eye, which has now begun locking onto the Star Destroyer. The zombie troopers then blast through the door and continue their pursuit. Our heroes then find themselves confronting Elsbeth and her new sword, at which point Ahsoka says she'll deal with her, and that Ezra and Sabine should continue on to stop Thrawn, and they soon find themselves confronted by zombie dark troopers. After dropping her lightsaber and almost being killed by one of those troopers, Sabine manages to use the Force to bring her lightsaber to her and to kill her attacker, while Ezra also kills his. And it was cool because it was the first time she had been able to use the Force, actually. The Star Destroyer, however, has begun pulling away from the structure, and Ezra has to make a Force jump, which he can only actually complete with the help of Sabine Force pushing him from the top of the structure to the destroyer, after which it becomes Sabine's turn to try to make the jump with Ezra's help Force pulling her. Ahsoka, meanwhile, is fighting off Elsbeth as a bunch of stormtroopers watch and ends up losing one of her lightsabers when Elsbeth cuts it to pieces with her blade. We then see that Sabine didn't actually make the jump, but stayed behind to help Ahsoka, which she does by taking out the stormtroopers using both her lightsaber and a blaster, reminiscent of one of the fighting styles available in the recent Star Wars game, Jedi Survivor. Ahsoka then manages to kill Elsbeth with her lightsaber by cutting her almost in half, before she and Sabine jump off the structure as it's being leveled by the Star Destroyer and land atop Ahsoka's ship, which Huyang has just brought around after managing to repair it and get it flying. Unfortunately, Ahsoka and Sabine are unable to stop Thrawn from escaping, which he does after taunting Ahsoka over comms by telling her that he wonders, given how alike her strategies seem to be to Anakin's, just how like him she may one day become. She and Sabine then return to the Nadi camp as Hati makes her way to a bandit camp, and Baylan goes to the top of an ancient statue the size of a mountain somewhere on the planet. Thrawn arrives back in his original galaxy at Dathomir and Ezra makes his way to the rebel fleet with the stolen Imperial craft whilst wearing stormtrooper armor, at which point he surprises Hera with his return, saying, "I'm home." Before the episode and this season ends, Ahsoka tells Sabine that she did a good job, that Ezra is now home where he needs to be, and that they are actually where they need to be as well. At which point, Sabine seems to sense the presence of something, perhaps through the Force, but shakes it off. And we see that what she was sensing, apparently, but could not see, was Anakin in Force Ghost form, which Ahsoka does see. And that's where the season and the episode ended. So I really liked this episode, both as a standalone episode and in its capacity as a season finale. I thought that the action scenes were great. I thought that it moved some of the important character plot points forward, namely the one where Sabine is getting back on track with her Jedi training and learning how to use the Force, and her relationship with Ahsoka is still mending and, hasn't gone off the rails, which is great. I thought it was interesting that yet again, the specter of Anakin's Vader self possibly being part of Ahsoka, which, is something that she's going to have to continue to persevere over. And, the fact that Thrawn kind of knows that when he says that to her, he's trying to plant seeds of doubt, which shows just how sinister he is. Like, that he just plays dirty and messes with people mentally, which was what he was great at during Rebels. Though I don't think Ahsoka was troubled by it. I think she's got enough closure on that whole thing that she can just brush it off. But it was interesting to see him bring it up and to see her kind of not give him the satisfaction of a response. I think it was great that we got to see Ezra finally make it home. And I think it was funny that he decided to put on stormtrooper armor, which I guess he did to escape the, Star Destroyer, but he left it on when he got off the shuttle when he finally docked with the Rebel fleet, because that's something that they did all the time in Rebels. He and Kanan, they were always putting on stormtrooper armor to, skulk around in Imperial bases and whatnot. So it's kind of a throwback to Rebels, which is cool. David Tennant, yet again, was excellent in this episode. I thought that in this episode, live action Thrawn finally lived up to animated Thrawn, in terms of, like I was saying earlier, his being just decidedly evil and twisted and just creepy as hell. And I like that they left certain things up in the air, in addition to the fact that obviously Ahsoka and Sabine are stranded in this other galaxy. And by that, I mean, we see Tate approach the bandit camp and sort of signal to them by raising her lightsaber. And the question is, well, what does that mean? There was a hint last week that Ahsoka sort of wanted to try to bring her in, as they say, and work with her to come to the light side, which Tate didn't take her up on. But she is now, like Ahsoka, as pointed out by Thrawn, a Ronin. Is she going to now become the leader of the bandit camp? What's she going to do? If she does do that, what's she going to do with it? And while we didn't get any dialogue from Baylan, which is unfortunate given that this was the last time we're going to see Ray Stevenson playing him, unless he shot some footage for season 2 before he passed. But I thought it was great to see that, he's moving on with his plan, and that it seems to involve like a giant statue, which indicates that it's some really grand thing, which he's been saying the whole time. Though I was disappointed that we didn't get any information about exactly what that plan is. I would have liked to have gotten some indication of what he's up to before the season ended. The other thing that we don't know the whole story of is what is going on with Thrawn's cargo. It looks like a whole bunch of corpses. And given that we saw the Night Sisters raise those stormtroopers from the dead, and that we know they can do this from, previous Star Wars projects, does that mean, the obvious, that he's going to resurrect them all so that he'll have this, like a standing army to reclaim the galaxy? I mean, that seems kind of obvious and on the nose, but that must be what he's planning, but it wasn't stated. So maybe there's a twist to it or a nuance to it that we're not thinking of, that once we see it, we'll find compelling in its own way. I don't know. We're going to have to wait for season 2, which it would seem there's going to be. I certainly hope there will be. But that's really it. I mean, I really liked this episode. As I was saying, I thought it was great in and of itself. I thought it worked very well as a season finale. I think they hit all the right notes for a season finale. And I think overall, the season was really good. It was slow going in the beginning. I didn't think the first few episodes were great. I did like the next 3 more than the first 3, and each one of those next 3 more than the last as they were coming out or as they came out. And I really liked this episode, as I was saying, meaning that the only one I didn't really care for was last week's episode, which, you know, is pretty good. You know, I think on balance, the season was a 7 or 8 out of 10. So I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was way better than Kenobi, for sure. And I think just as good as Rebels, which was 4 seasons and many tens of episodes, not all of which were 5s out of 5, you know, because no series that long or even shorter is going to have a constant run of episodes that are 5 out of 5. So, you know, again, on balance, I think it was a really good season, and I'm really looking forward to season 2. I just wish this season weren't over. I wish we were going to get more next week, but we have to wait for season 2, which I am very much looking forward to after this really good season of Star Wars. But that's really it. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, may the Force be with you.